But our next guest is mixing things up a little bit, literally mixing things up, and here to show you how to make a very festive holiday cocktail. It's the one we were sipping on at the beginning of the show with a little focus on local ingredients, is Jack Teach. He's a bartender at the High Hat Lounge on Brady. So people can come and find you there and you can mix up a cocktail for them there.
Please do.
And we do kind of made to order things for people if they visit you.
You know what? I do my best to make anything people can think of, but we also do have a really great static menu of drinks that changes seasonally, and you know, but if we have the stuff, we'll make it.
Awesome. What is this?
Well, this is one of my creations that I made for this season. It's a take on the classic Negroni cocktail, but focus a little bit on the season that we're in. So one of my favorite ingredients to work with is blood oranges, but it's only available literally for like a month in the winter time. But we're in that month, so what a great time to use it.
Blood oranges.
It's a lot like a regular orange. You probably couldn't tell them apart next to each other. But when you cut into it, it's a rich burgundy wine color.
Did you know they were only available for such a short time?
I didn't know that they were seasonal, but I know that you also have a tip for what to do with the peel of the orange.
Oh yeah,
done,
certainly.
Right?
Well, when I made the syrup, I used the outer rind of the peel, very similar to this here, and then you boil it down to get all of the essential oils into it. But at the end of it, you know, you just have all of this boiled peel, so why throw it away? When you toss it in a little granulated sugar, you have something to nibble on while you're making all your drinks.
Nice.
Like homemade candy.
I love that.
But anyway, so when I looked at the cocktail, I had to rearrange the proportions a little because the gin, even though it's a local gin, Rehorst, really delicious, really smooth, and Campari can be a little strong for your guests. You don't necessarily know that they like that strong flavor.
And Campari, is that a...
This is an Italian Amaro, so it's very bitter, made with a sour orange, and then, so it's got a lot of bitterness, but really bright citrus flavors as well. So if you take the time to really play with the proportions, which is fun, because that's the trial and error, right?
Right.
Then you can figure out a more balanced mixture for your guests in the holiday season. So add a little bit of the homemade ingredient, which is actually the blood orange syrup with some fresh rosemary, because the floral parts of rosemary, I think, really bring out all the subtle hints in the gin. And then you just mix it up. And this is another part that's really fun for the holidays, you know.
So you actually put the rosemary, the herb, in the shaker.
Yeah, well, the rosemary is actually already in the syrup. So we'll have a little bit on the side for garnish, because, you know, the garnish always looks good. And it's good to know what's in your drink by looking at it.
Yeah.
But this is really the show part, right? You know, you wait all night, and that's why you go out.
To see somebody do that, right?
Just shake it.
Put a little muscle into it.
Put a little muscle into it, drown out the kids for a minute, and then you get it all set up, and it's ice cold and delicious if you can ever get the things apart, right?
Right.
And the whole goal is not to spill on yourself.
Right, exactly.
But if you do, who cares? It's the holidays. That's why you wear red in the first place.
Yeah.
I love the big ice cubes, too.
Yes, you know, the big ice cubes, you can get these ice cube trays at Sur La Table or online pretty easily, but they melt so slowly that it really allows you time to enjoy your drink. So you take a little bit of your orange or citrus, whatever you have around, but, you know, since we're using what we use, and just squeeze it right over the top. That little bit of oil really brings out the aroma. And then if you're going to use any sort of herb, just give it a little smack.
Oh.
Because what do you do?
Smack the herb.
You can
Brings
already smell the oils are right on the surface.
Fragrant.
That's amazing.
There you
it
go.
does
Plus,
smell
you know,
just like orange juice.
The show is part of it, right? And the holidays. And then you're all set.
I was so impressed. You want to taste that one?
Well, I guess.
See what you think of it.
It's really great. Now, do you think people are going to be intimidated by the process of having to make their own syrup for a drink?
Well, that's the thing about it. You know, it's really a lot simpler than it sounds. It's a couple items. It's sugar and water are the main ingredients, and then whatever else you have that you like the flavor of. And you know, sugar is so cheap and water is so cheap. If it's terrible, just chuck it and start over. You know, you're really not out a whole lot.
How long does it take?
This one took about 30 minutes. It depends on the ingredients. And again, it's trial and error, but that's part of the fun, right?
Well, you shared a recipe, which I think is great, because it calls for 6 to 8 blood oranges, so that's the juice probably of the blood oranges. 4 sprigs of fresh rosemary, which is pretty easy to find. You can even find it packaged, so it's real easy to use. A cup and a half of water, a cup and a half of sugar, and then you go about kind of boiling that down, right?
Yep. And you know, another great part is if you make it right before your guests come, your whole house smells like the oranges and rosemary then too. So.
And you can make it ahead of time and probably save it in a jar. What you have there.
Since this has actual juice in it, it breaks down a little bit faster. So it's good for about a week, maybe 2 if your refrigerator's good and cold. But if you're not using any actual citrus juice in it, any syrup can last for about a month in the refrigerator.
Very cool. It's really nice. And blood oranges are one of your favorites to work with, right?
Yeah, they're just so beautiful. Don't wear white while you're playing with them, but other than that, they're such a great flavor, and you know you only have so much time to use them. So.
And well, I also think what's interesting is a lot of people are turned off by gin. To me, sometimes it tastes like you're drinking a pine tree. But you've made a couple drinks before for us with gin, and what you mix with it, I'm a huge fan.
It makes a huge difference. You know, gin has so many ingredients. The pine needle taste is one of them, but with all the other botanicals in it, you know, that's why you have to really play around with what you're going to add to it. But you can really bring out a lot of subtleties in the different gins. And try a whole bunch of different gins, too, because, you know, you might like one better than the other.
Great point. And I know people can find out more about your recipe, because the drink we made today was with gin, blood orange, rosemary syrup that you made. Then the Carpano, is that how you say it?
The Carpano Antica, one of my favorite sweet vermouths. But if you can't find it, you know, your favorite sweet vermouth will work just fine.
And then the Campari, which is a little bit more bitter, and then a little bit of fresh lemon juice.
Yes, ma'am.
See, it's easier than you think, and
Yep.
it looks fantastic
Delicious.
as a drink. Great to have you, and people can visit you
pleasure.
at Hi Hat, and you can whip it up for them right
we'll
in
have
person.
a gin tasting. Come on in. We'll try them
Awesome.
all.
Great. Love hi-hat.
All right, excellent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you, too.